Hello everyone, my name is Graham Christian. Welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who saw my home video, you know that this channel was created to help people who struggle with anxiety. It is my hope to use this channel to expose you to concepts and lessons that will bring you into greater connection with yourself and others, while also finding a greater sense of meaning and purpose in life. All of us have some story about anxiety, trauma, or disappointment. And it's crucial we all explore our own stories and narratives before we try and put ourselves together. My hope is that by sharing my own story of anxiety, you can feel less alone in your struggle with anxiety. I know that for many people, we experience these intense feelings of anxiety, and it's easy to feel like we're going crazy. In this picture-perfect world of social media influencers, it's easy to feel like you're the only person in the world struggling with anxiety, worry, guilt, or a sense of meaninglessness. But you're not alone. In fact, your struggle with anxiety is precisely what makes you, you. It's okay to feel anxiety. In fact, for many of us, anxiety is the door to our destiny. But choosing to confront our anxiety and move forward in spite of feeling burdened and overwhelmed, by doing this, you can find meaning and purpose in your life. So if you experience anxiety, don't be discouraged. As you'll come to find out, anxiety can be a powerful tool in self-discovery. So let's dive in. My anxiety story. I felt for a long time like my anxiety was a sign that something was wrong with me. I felt like if I could only work harder and focus more, the anxiety would go away. The truth is, this drive, this will to succeed actually only made my anxiety worse. I found that by trying to ignore my anxiety and focus on my work, my anxiety only got worse. Honestly, I was in denial that I had anxiety for a while. I was ignoring the fact that I needed to take a pregnant pause, that I first needed to stop and look within. Sometimes looking within can be a scary process. We don't like seeing our inner ugliness, our inner hurt, and for most of us, it's easy to try and ignore it. But eventually, your inner pain, your anxieties, worries from the past, and trauma will come back and visit you if you don't visit it first. Looking back now, I realized that trying to fight the anxiety was the worst thing I could do, and that anxiety was a warning sign that I needed to stop, that I needed to give myself permission to just be human. My anxiety came to a climax when, during my junior year in college, I woke up one weekend morning to absolutely crippling anxiety. My heart rate was pounding through the roof, and I couldn't get it to slow down. I was having trouble doing basic things like sleeping, eating, or socializing. In the past, I could usually go for a walk or go to a coffee shop and relieve the anxiety I was feeling. But on this day, that didn't work. In fact, the coffee seemed to exacerbate my feelings of panic, and if you think things couldn't get worse, they did. I remember going back to my dorm room in a panicked state. I laid down on my dorm room bed, heart racing, just wishing that my body would calm down. In a moment of complete despair, a big blackbird flew into my open window and got stuck in the blinds. I remember hearing the bird flapping its wings against the window panes as the bird panicked to get out himself. I remember feeling this powerful sense that the universe was showing me exactly how I was feeling. Fortunately, the bird eventually escaped. Unfortunately, my sense of anxiety didn't. But what this experience did for me was it gave me a powerful visual of what I was going through. Seeing the bird stuck in a space where it doesn't belong revealed exactly what I was feeling. And I realized that I was stuck in anxiety and that I was in a place where I didn't belong. That day was the beginning of my journey to acknowledging that I had anxiety and a commitment to finding tools and resources I needed to cope with it. Reflecting on my story now, it sounds so simple, but the truth is, my journey to coping with anxiety was a long and messy one. It's not a pretty story. I'm not going to tell you that in a matter of weeks I went from being an anxious mess to being a straight A student. In fact, I spent several more months struggling with anxiety and struggling just to pass my classes. The turning point did come several years later when I stumbled into a handful of tools to help me learn to cope and to heal. The point I'm trying to make is working through anxiety is a messy process. It takes courage. It takes an immense amount of bravery to take action in spite of the fact you feel nothing but confusion and pain. It's never simple, and it requires trying lots of new approaches. Sometimes we make progress, and other times we regress. Anxiety is a complex state, and there's no simple answer. But for me, the only viable answer is action, because if we don't act, we choose our comfort zone. If we choose to medicate our anxiety through addiction and complacency, we've really only picked a path of death. So, how did I overcome my anxiety? Well, for me, it started by trying to understand why I was anxious. For me, my anxiety was caused by a variety of complex factors. For starters, I moved constantly growing up, rarely living in one place longer than a year or two before picking up and moving on. While I was fortunate to have an interesting and broad education growing up, I wasn't really given any tools that could help me learn how to cope with my emotions. In fact, I often fought or repressed my emotions, burying them under the illusion that I was okay and I could really just work my way through it. In addition to these factors, due to the 9/11 crisis, my dad essentially lost his job in Botswana, Africa, and we had to move back to the United States. And when we moved back, we really struggled financially for several years, and I was in the last few years of high school. Moving from Africa to America was really difficult for me. Moving from a country I loved to rural America and seeing my dad lose his job, it just put a lot of strain on my relationship with my family and my community. There wasn't a lot of communication around how to handle the feelings of loss and grief and transition. When you put all these factors together, I realized looking back that anxiety really was inevitable for me. Moving constantly gave me a sense of groundlessness. I felt very unsettled and insecure. I didn't have the emotional vocabulary to know how to talk about my feelings. By the time I was in college, I had a deep sense of guilt that I didn't know myself and that I wasn't a better student. In my early college years, I was pretty ruthless with myself, and I didn't give myself permission to take care of myself. I felt constant pressure to be something more than what I was. It was a painful time in my life in which I was hurt. Looking back on my life today, I have compassion on the person I used to be, and I wish I could tell my past self that everything I was experiencing was totally normal, and that I had permission to be emotionally a mess. While my journey to overcoming anxiety is a long one, you might be asking yourself how I found the tools and support I needed to overcome anxiety. Now, for many of you, I know this is going to be a bit of a turnoff, but hear me out, as what happened is more complex than it sounds. The thing that helped me turn the tables on my anxiety was being invited to a religious event with a friend. Now, I'm not trying to tell you you need to become religious in order to overcome anxiety. Instead, I want to focus on the tools and experiences this religious event provided to help me, and potentially others, in coping with anxiety. For starters, I was surrounded by a group of people who made me feel safe. I felt like there was an open honesty that we are all struggling with hurt and the need for meaning in life. It was a place where we discussed human brokenness very openly, and that openness gave me permission to see myself as broken too, and as in need of help. This event shifted my focus from striving to improve myself through effort to giving and receiving love in a community. It also rooted my sense of identity beyond just my performance in school and posited my value in a higher power, a God who loved me regardless of what I did. When I finally stopped trying to be something, I could finally pause enough to see what was going on inside of me. It was a powerful experience that got me off the hook. While I don't recommend this for anyone trying to be a straight A student, one of the big things that shifted for me after this event was I started resting a lot more, and I gave myself permission to be an average student. I decided to reduce my workload so that I could have more time to myself. Even though I didn't fully realize it at the time, I started to engage in a combination of meditation and active imagination sessions alone in my dorm room that helped me access parts of my emotions that I couldn't handle or explore before. In many ways, religion was a tool that gave me the psychotechnologies I needed to escape anxiety and complexity. And it also helped me derive powerful insights. I found that the process of sleeping more, meditating regularly, and exploring the depths of my imagination were potent and powerful tools in finding meaning and fulfillment in my life. The truth is, even if you don't propositionally agree with religion, or if you're skeptical of religion, some religious experiences do give us access to tools that can be powerful in confronting anxiety. Some of these tools include community, connection, a sense of oneness with the universe, and a meditation practice. Religion is a powerful tool that, regardless of your belief in it, can be used to help people in various ways. There's a really profound YouTube series taught by John Bevere called Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. John Bevere is not a religious person and even describes himself as a physicalist, but his series provides powerful insights into the way religion acts as a psychotechnology in helping us find meaning and insights. John Bevere's series also adequately explains my experience of anxiety, in part as a consequence of a universal meaning crisis that most of us are experiencing today, and that I was not alone in this. If you want to have a better understanding of why our culture specifically is struggling with anxiety, I highly recommend watching his series, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, which I'll link in the description. But this religious experience wasn't the only tool I've learned to help me cope with anxiety and trauma. As I've matured, I've built an arsenal of tools that I use on a regular basis to help me find direction when I'm struggling. Some of these tools include meditation, journaling, reading, and engaging in different types of spirituality. I'm also a deep believer in therapy, and I've been attending therapy the last few months. In addition to therapy, I also believe that having meaningful connections with people who make us feel safe is absolutely vital to our sense of well-being. I hope that you found my story of anxiety meaningful. At the very least, I hope my story gave you permission to be patient with yourself as you struggle with anxiety. It's okay to feel anxiety, and you don't have to get rid of feelings of anxiety. It's okay to read books on anxiety. It's okay to get therapy. It's also okay to push forward in your life in spite of the feelings of anxiety. The goal of this YouTube channel is to explore how we can respond to anxiety by creating meaning. Life is full of rich and abundant experiences for human beings. The last thing you want is to spend your life in a perpetual state of fear, anxiety, and morbid self-attention. I know what it's like getting stuck in your head. As I've shared today, I've spent decades being stuck in my head. This YouTube channel is a byproduct of my exploration to find the best learning strategies and coping skills to succeed. By growing in self-awareness and developing critical skills needed to be fulfilled, you can create an extremely meaningful and fulfilling life through discipline, self-mastery, and habit change. Some of this discipline is the opposite of difficult, though. In fact, sometimes discipline starts with creating habits around the things that are relaxing: meditation, sleep, seeing people who make you feel loved, and going for long walks. Success doesn't have to be a long, arduous, and painful journey. It can be as simple as learning how to do the right things that leave you feeling refreshed. Success isn't defined by material gain or wealth, but by the depth and quality of meaning in your life. The exciting thing about this, though, is everyone is different, and meaning for you might look differently than meaning for someone else. There isn't one-size-fits-all advice for everyone. You get to have your own journey. You have your own story, and you have something to offer that no one else can give. I want you to know that you are valuable, whoever you are. I want you to feel permission to simply be yourself in all your individual quirks, messiness, and beauty. Before I sign off, I want you to ask yourself, what is your story with anxiety? Where are you in that story? If you want to explore your story with anxiety, I highly recommend you take a few minutes to journal. Here's a few prompts you can use while you are exploring your story. How are you feeling right now? Is your anxiety trying to tell you something? Write what your anxiety might be telling you. Write about your history with anxiety. When did your anxiety hit its peak? What was happening in your life to cause your anxiety? Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in more content about ways you can overcome anxiety, watch my next video to learn 4 daily habits you can use to reduce anxiety. Thank you for listening to my story with anxiety. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel.